Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready?
Ever wondered why your marketing feels like shouting into the void? You're not alone. In this conversation, we dive deep into the entrepreneurial mind trap that keeps businesses stuck in their own heads instead of connecting with their customers. Our guest, Charlie, shares the brutal truth about why even seasoned marketers struggle to apply their own expertise to their businesses. Welcome to Entrepreneur Encounter, where we talk about the importance of soft skills, personal and professional development. We're your hosts, Sarah and Dana. In today's episode, we're talking about why you should get out of your own head, the reasons why transformations sell, and the difference between engaging content versus converting content. Now let's get into this episode.
Welcome, Charlie, to the show. Before we dive into all of our questions, can you explain who you are and your journey into entrepreneurship?
Sure. So, hi, listeners. My name's Charlie, or Charlotte Sargent, but only ever really get called Charlotte when I'm in trouble. So if you feel like I'm in trouble, call me Charlotte. Every other time, Charlie works. And my journey into entrepreneurship, and I think maybe every entrepreneur says this, but it's kind of been exciting, scary, bumpy, roller coasty, all of the above. So my background has always been working in kind of agency world. So I do paid social advertising. That's kind of my main career path and bread and butter of everything that I did previously. So running ads in Meta, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, all those fun places to hang out. And then as kind of time went on, we started to kind of see from a media buying perspective, like running these paid social advertising campaigns was becoming less and less technical. The skills required used to be quite, analytical, data-driven, really techie, understanding how to set these campaigns up in a really technical way. And that's really how my brain operates, in a really kind of structured, loving processes, loving data kind of way. But that all started to kind of go away as Meta wanted to automate things and make it as easy as possible to take advertisers' money. And so we started to see that creative was becoming more and more important, the ad creative that you run in the paid social campaigns, in terms of having some control and impact over how well these ad campaigns performed. So I started to make the switch into focusing a little bit more on creative and ad creative and creative strategy. That took me down a really fun path around kind of psychology and consumer psychology and behavioral psychology, which had always been an interest for me anyway, and how we could basically put together these creative plans for our clients that would be super successful and get great results for the clients. As I started kind of trying to build creative departments and put together processes to make this kind of work really easy for us, I realized how difficult it was to kind of pull together all of these different elements of what do customers really care about? What are our competitors doing? What kind of ads are working well at the moment? What should we be saying in our ads? What kind of ads should we be doing? And I found it super challenging. So I kind of said to my CEO at the time, let's see if we can bring someone in to help us figure this out. Because this isn't new, The ad industry has been around for yonks, years and years and years, and people must have figured out a better way to do this. And we couldn't really find anybody. It was quite strange. There wasn't really anybody kind of out there in our industry saying, this is the way to do it. We've got this really cool process, or this is a system that you can follow. And that kind of sparked the little entrepreneurial seed in my brain. It started to kind of germinate from there, where I was like, well, every agency that I've worked at has needed this. We've never been able to find anybody to do it. Other people must have this problem. If I can find a way to solve it, then I can help lots and lots of people and maybe do it in a way that just fits a bit more kind of organically in my life. And that's where the entrepreneurial journey began for me. So yeah, still relatively new, I guess. I left my last agency role in July of last year, and at time of recording, we're now March. So I'm not even a year into my entrepreneurial journey, but still that roller coaster that, that I mentioned a second ago, for sure.
Don't think I realized when we first talked that you were still so new in your entrepreneur journey. That's exciting. I would have so
Yay. No, that's really cool. Because another thing too, because a lot of the times when people start off as new, they're like, I'm new, but you're not new in a way because you've worked in the realm for so long, but now you're just doing it on your own.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I've worked with clients and actually maybe that agency background put me in quite a good stead for it, because I'm so used to working with clients. And I think that's quite often a big change for entrepreneurs, is like, oh gosh, I'm working directly with the people buying my product or service. But I was really used to that anyway, kind of from the agency world. So maybe that helped me kind of take to it a bit more easily.
That's amazing. I love that.
So with your unique backgrounds, I still feel like then our questions are perfect, because regardless of how long you've been in the journey, you're well seasoned on understanding audiences, buyer intent, pain points, all of the things that we hear about on social media, things that you need to talk to and address with your audience, depending on your niche. So why do you think so many businesses, and I will put myself out there sometimes, it gets me too, I get wrapped in my own head, but why do you think many businesses struggle to truly understand their audience?
I've seen this time and time again, kind of in the agency world, working with so many different types of clients. I definitely talk to things with like a paid social hat on, because that's kind of been my background, but it's not just in relation to paid social. If you're doing organic social media for your own business, even if you're just kind of trying to figure out what you need to say on your web pages, your websites, landing pages, email campaigns, I'll kind of probably say paid social a bit because it's ingrained in my brain that way. But really, I guess kind of think about that as just any kind of marketing across the board. And like I said, from my agency experience, I've worked with e-com brands, I've worked with service providers, I've worked with software companies, I've worked with information products. I've really worked with a big variety of businesses. And I think as a business owner, any business owner wanting to figure out their marketing message, you started your business for a very specific reason, right? Every business owner out there, there's a reason why they started that business. There was a problem that they experienced that they were like, holy cow, I can solve this for so many people. I'm going to make a business out of this. Their friend had a problem or their parent had a problem. And there was something there that they were like, that sparked that entrepreneurial seed in their minds. And so I think when entrepreneurs kind of go out there and then try to advertise their business or do any kind of marketing, they're very led by that bias of why they started their business in the first place. As I said, it's happened so often where I'll speak to a brand owner and say, right, why do your customers buy from you? And they'll list off these things. Oh, it's because of this. It's because of that. Great. Fantastic. And where's the data for that? Oh, I just know that that's why people buy from me. Okay, cool. So we're telepathic as well. And I say that with love because it's exactly the same for my business. Yeah, I think a lot of businesses can kind of be led by their own experiences around why they started the business and think, okay, that's what everybody else wants and that's what everybody else needs. But actually, the way businesses solve problems for their customers and their clients can be so varied. And there can be, the pain point that maybe sparked your entrepreneurial journey off for yourself might not be the pain point that actually your customers value the most in terms of what you can actually help them with and what you can solve for them. So it's really important to kind of get out of your own head, which is really, really, I've experienced this so many times in my business, is your business is your baby. So everything feels, you're emotionally attached to it and it feels like it's kind of been done intentionally that way. So letting go of those things can sometimes be quite difficult. But I would say it's kind of, my advice would be to kind of get out of your own head a little bit and get out there into the market, actually speak to your customers and ask them, what did you love about working with me? What did my product or service do that really changed things for you? Why did you want to buy my product or service in the first place? What was the pain that you were experiencing that led you to coming and having a conversation with me? What kind of outcomes did you experience that were really, really beneficial for you and that, you really valued the most? And if you are fairly new on the entrepreneurial journey like me, speak to ideal customers. So speak to people who could potentially buy from you and offer them some help, offer them some free support, even just get on a call and then just say, right, tell me in your own words, what are the problems? What are the things that you really need help with? And it doesn't always have to be a sales pitch. Definitely don't always make it a sales pitch because my God, do people hate that? But just go out into the world, offer some value and just ask the questions. What are you really struggling with the most? And try and understand from the people who might actually be your customers what they need help with.
Yeah, you definitely need to have those conversations, like checking in with your clients that you already have and
Mm.
doing that market research, because it's helpful. Because to get that feedback, okay, so you get this feedback from your current or past clients, and then they can give you that feedback, and then that's going to help you improve as well, which is, I believe, would help you grow as a business owner tremendously.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. That kind of, those testimonials are fantastic for helping you kind of understand how to market yourself, but actually they act as that proof point as well for other potential clients coming through the door. Is like, yeah, helps to remove some of that risk for other potential clients if you've got testimonials that you can share.
I feel like we have a process with the podcast of how we gather testimonials or attempt to gather testimonials for our podcast and gather feedback. And then in our individual businesses, I use a different approach. It doesn't replicate essentially, or there's not like one cookie cutter way to gather the data to show that social proof. So can you walk us through, I guess, your approach to gathering audience insights, whether it's for yourself or for your clients?
Yeah, totally. So it is really challenging, especially for new entrepreneurs and newer businesses, especially if they've got long-term clients as well. It might be that they only have 2 or 3 clients, especially for service-based businesses. And if it's a new entrepreneur that can only serve 3 clients at a time with a specific type of service, then there just isn't that opportunity to get loads and loads of feedback in. So it can for sure be, super challenging. What I would say in those situations, if you don't have like a lot of your own sort of testimonials, and business owners hate this advice, but look at testimonials of your closest competitor. And the reason I give that advice, even though people don't love to hear it, is because actually the features or the tangible things that you offer as part of your product or service aren't always the things that will connect and make the customer buy. So let's say if you sell weighted blankets, you're an e-com business, and your weighted blanket weighs 8 kilograms, but your competitor weighted blanket weighs 7 kilograms. You know that 8 kilograms is better. And so you know that your product is more premium. So you might think, well, I don't want to go and look at my competitors' testimonials because their product is different from mine. My product's more superior. But that level of like features and the kind of techie spec side of the product or service that you're offering, customers don't actually necessarily really care about that. What they care about is how that 8 kilograms is going to take them from A to B. Maybe they have a lot of anxiety, so they don't sleep very well. That's something weighted blankets are fantastic for. So you saying 8 kilogram weighted blanket versus 7 kilogram weighted blanket isn't going to be the difference of whether they buy or not. What you talk about in terms of how it's going to help them to sleep better, get the best night's sleep you've had in months, like reduce your anxiety, those are the things that customers really care about. And that's why if we look at our competitor testimonials, those different nuances around our product or service that we do differently to our competitors, very often customers don't even notice that. They won't be talking about that in the testimonials. And the reason that we look at testimonials is because we want to really understand what is the most important to the customer. So we are actively trying to get away from me as the business owner. This is what I think is important. It's a complete mindset switch to them as the customer. What do they think is important? And that's what we're trying to kind of get to the bottom of. So looking at a competitor's testimonials can sometimes feel a bit counterintuitive because you might think, yeah, but I do this so much better. But actually what we're really looking for is the customer's experience. And so it's okay to delve into bigger brands that have got testimonials already gathered and tap into that as an insights resource.
Isn't it crazy? Like when you look at testimonials and you start to see the trend, I'll go back and look at mine. I'm like, okay, that's the same. That's the same. That's the same. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. Yeah.
To your point, depending on what your testimonials say, like that could help you bring better content. Like if you're like, social media content or whatever the case may be, you can put out stuff to that.
Yeah, that's really the goal. That's what we want to do is like figure out what are the things. So when customers leave testimonials, they tend to be either really overwhelmingly positive experience or they've had a really overwhelmingly negative experience generally. Like when you ever look, even if you just shop on Amazon, you'll see like the 5 stars are generally really high and maybe the 1 stars can sometimes be high, but the bit in the middle is like empty because people who have average experiences don't tend to feel motivated or moved enough to actually go to the effort of leaving a testimonial. And that's where the testimonial analysis is so useful, because those 5-star reviews of people that have had overwhelmingly positive experiences are going to be talking about the transformational experience that they've had with the product. And that's exactly what we want to tap into for our own marketing messaging, because if that's what moved our existing customer enough to go and leave that testimonial, that's going to be the content that's in that testimonial is going to be exactly what's going to move our prospective customers from, just having a look and considering us to potentially making that purchase decision. So that's, really the kind of key part is, what did customers experience that they loved so much to leave a review? Those are the golden nuggets, and those are the really incredible things that we can then think about putting in our own marketing messaging. Another kind of example that I come back to a lot as well is if you're a skincare brand, and my examples might be a lot more e-com because that's the nature of paid social a lot. So you might see in your reviews something along the lines of, I never used to leave the house without makeup, but now after using this skincare brand, like I go to the shops and I do this, that, and the other. I do the school run completely barefaced now. And that's the kind of thing that's really, really useful insight. So as the skincare brand owner, maybe they said, well, people love it because it reduces fine lines and wrinkles. It reduces the size of their pores. But even saying that in the marketing messaging isn't as powerful as do the school run without your makeup and feel confident. Like that's kind of the difference. And that's where we can think about the features and benefits of a brand, how they might think that people love and experience the product. It's like go one level deeper. And that's what the testimonials help you do, is go that one level deeper. So the customer won't say, oh, my pores look visibly reduced. They say, my skin feels amazing. Like I go to the school run without my makeup on now. And those are the kind of nuggets that you can then put in your marketing, because your ideal customer, who's maybe a mum and also doing the school run, might be like, oh, wow, I wish I felt confident enough to do the school run without my makeup on. And she did. I'm going to buy this skincare product because maybe it will give me that same outcome and that same transformation.
Coming from a busy mom, I feel like it would just be one less thing to do before you leave the house is put makeup on, because my skincare routine is so nice.
That way we'll all want that, 100%.
So with that thought process, and this is something that's been coming up, honestly, at the time of this recording, a lot this week with like marketing messaging and like content. And someone did call me out on, and not in a bad way. It was really good. I hate saying called out, but it was brought to my attention by someone who I trust, who actually was a previous guest on this podcast, that my marketing is more or less too passive. And so it is sending people to places and they are taking action by listening to the podcast or checking out the newsletter. But if I need to make sales to meet my goals, I need to stop leading them there. I need to lead them to my landing page or our sponsorship page for this podcast. Those things, people obviously are going where I send them. So I need to send them to better places. So what is the difference, since we were talking about content, between content that engages and content that converts? Because those are two different mindset shifts that I am still learning.
Oh, me too.
Me too. Me too. And I literally do this for a living, but it's so hard to do it to your own business. And actually that's something that was one of the hardest lessons I learned as an entrepreneur, is like this stuff that I do for my clients, I'm obviously good enough at it that I can make money from it. Great. That's fantastic. And I've spent my whole career doing it. When I try and apply the same logic for my business, it's like my brain turns to a chocolate teapot. It just melts. I actually hired a coach to help me with some of this stuff. And she was like, well, what's the problem that you solve? And I'm like, well, it's this and it's this. And no, one problem. I can't pick one problem. This is my business. This is my baby. I've solved all of these problems. I've put my heart and soul into solving all of these problems. Don't make me pick one. Well, if you don't pick one, you're not going to sell anything. Oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I would tell my clients. Why the heck have I not realized that for myself? Honestly, it's a mild form of torture, I think, running your own business. But hey, maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Sounds like this.
Yeah. We love being entrepreneurs. Yay. The difference between engaging and converting, that was your question. So the way I kind of think about this, and this has actually been a bit of a progression from my own journey with my own kind of social media for my business, is that you've got to kind of play the game of the algorithm and social media generally. And you absolutely do want content that's going to engage people, because you need to kind of get their attention to get into their world. So there's going to be types of content that are going to be great for sales and types of content that are going to be great for discovery. So if you're doing maybe organic social media for your own business, I would suggest that should be the type of discovery content. And that might be content where you're giving away really impactful value, like really great tips on something, or you're giving a case study of how you took a client from A to B, or like a personal story about how you've done something or achieved something. And that's kind of, the bag of like discovery content, as I kind of call it. And that's where you would be really trying to seek engagement. So you want, I guess, the kind of content that's people are going to want to save and come back to later, or share with a business bestie or a friend or whatever. That kind of content, not only will that get really favored by the organic algorithm, because if lots of people are saving and sharing the content, that signals to the algorithm, this is great content, give it more reach. So that's kind of one aspect of it. But also you just need to get into people's worlds. You need to get people following you. You want to be in their news feeds. And so that kind of content where you're giving really great value or something really entertaining or something really engaging that gets that engagement that you mentioned is a really solid like first step, I would say, of a strategy for marketing. But if you want to get conversions, people don't tend to buy off you when you give them really great value. Like, here's 3 ways that you can get better performance on your ads. Here are the 3 things that you do. Now buy my thing and I'll help you do those things even better. Well, you've already told them what to do. So they're probably actually not going to buy because you've already kind of given them something to do. You've already given them something, okay, I'm going to go away and try that. If that doesn't work, maybe I'll buy. I don't know, maybe not. But the kind of content that really gets people to convert is when you really understand those one level deepers that I was talking about. It's not that how to get your pores looking smaller and your fine lines and wrinkles looking smoother. The thing that gets people to convert is that one level deeper of you be able to do the school run without putting makeup on because you're going to feel that dang confident in your skin. And that's what moves people to buy. So it's really kind of moving away from giving away like value and tips. That's really great for engagement, and moving into talking about taking them on that transformational journey. So what's the pain that they're in right now that they don't want anymore? What's the outcome on the other side of your product or service? That is what they're trying to get to. And then you show them yourself as the solution that bridges that gap between the pain they're in now and the outcome that they want. So you don't have to necessarily tell them how. Like with the skincare brand, it's the message that converts isn't 10% hyaluronic acid. It's not 8 kilograms of weighted beads. That's not how you move people to buy. It's the transformation of where you are now, where you want to be, and I'm going to get you there. So that's kind of how I would say is the really kind of key way to get that conversion is by having a super deep understanding of your audience. It really starts there. If you don't know what their pain point is that they're trying to escape, how can you kind of show them that you're the person to solve it? And the other way I like to think about this is that with my marketing, what I try and do is articulate the pain point of my audience so well that when they see that in their newsfeed or the email campaign or the landing page that they land on, they think, wow, she's explained that problem that I'm experiencing better than I could even explain it myself. She's definitely the right person to help me solve this problem. So that's really kind of the real switch, I would say, in terms of engagement and conversion is really, really honing in on that transformation you're going to get from here to here.
Do you think it would be advisable for entrepreneurs to dig deep into like the psychology behind sales? Because I hear this often and I'm still learning that. Because obviously, you have to tap into the emotion. You have to tap into like the transformation and all that stuff. Because like in our mind, we understand what the transformation is. But like going into a deeper level with that, I think that's where a lot of us, myself included, have a hard time like tapping into that. Like, is there a way that we can all learn this in a simple way, so to speak? Like, what's the best route to go about doing that?
Yeah, totally. So there are a couple of really, really excellent books that tap into this. And this is how I kind of think about behavioral psychology and consumer psychology. So Will Leach, Marketing to Mind States, he has an absolutely excellent book. And I can't remember now off the top of my head, I think there's 8 like motivators, he calls them, that you can tap into that essentially are kind of founded in the way we operate as humans. And when you can tap into these motivators, it kind of encourages certain behaviors and decision making. And the reason why this is so powerful as well is because especially, I was just talking there about engaging and how if you want engagement content write the kind of content that people are going to save to come back to and share with their friends, because that's what the algorithm rewards. Well, the algorithm changes its mind every 2 minutes. So, that's all well and good. By the time this
Getting on that so fast.
Exactly. Well, no, exactly. By the time this podcast goes out, that might not even be the right organic tips anymore, because it changes that fast. But what doesn't change is human behavior. And this is where it does get really super fascinating, because like the part of our brain that's responsible for decision making is called the limbic system. And that is the first part of the brain that ever formed before we even evolved into like standing upright humans with opposable thumbs. Like way back in the old like Neanderthal days, that part of the brain was the same, and it's been the same since, and it still drives a lot of our decision making. And we've evolved, and as things like social media evolves, sure, the way that we consume content and things like that change. TikTok's been absolutely mind-blowing in the way that it's changed the way that we consume short-form video content nowadays. But actually, that's just a kind of surface level thing. The way we make decisions and buy, that's not changed for like 250 odd million years. And so there are tons of really great marketing psychology frameworks that really kind of help us to understand what are the things that drive human behavior. That Will Leach, Marketing to Mind States, is one fantastic book on that. Another one that you might be a bit more familiar with is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow, it's not in specifically, his framework isn't specifically anything to do with like sales or marketing. It's just to do with human behavior. But it's kind of got like the physiological needs on the bottom. And then I think it goes into like safety. And there are these 5 layers of like all these different things that you can tap into to help influence human behavior. And there are some really common themes. Like there are every single kind of model or framework that I've ever read up about on behavioral psychology has so much overlap. You see the exact same themes in every single one. So whilst the frameworks out there might be slightly different, the underlying things are the same. And it really kind of comes back to like the key ones I would say is like status. So it's that old like keeping up with the Joneses kind of vibe. And in maybe the 1950s, the Joneses had a toilet inside, and everybody wished that they had a toilet inside their own home. So sure, the thing that the proverbial Joneses have that everybody wants changes over time, but we're always chasing something. We always want something that slightly more wealthy family or that slightly better off, whatever. We always want what they've got. And so that's kind of one really good example of like a core behavior driver for humans. Another one that comes up really often is like nurturance. So wanting people to take care of us and also taking care of other people. As human beings, we are herd animals. Like we are built to procreate and like thrive as a race. And so that kind of element of needing to be loved and wanting to love others is also really good to tap into. You see this in kind of like baby brands with products like baby monitors or like, Beside Me cribs or, whatever. You'll see them tapping into that element of nurturance. So yeah, kind of, I'd say for people wanting to tap into that psychology side of things, even just having a look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs would be a really good starting point. There's only 5 on his little pyramid there, and thinking, how does my brand fit into that? So the weighted blanket example that I was talking about, that would be a great one for physiological needs, because one of the parts of physiological requirements as a human is we need sleep. And so weighted blanket can help you sleep. So you might talk about that in your marketing around how the weighted blanket would help with sleep or help kind of alleviate some of those problems. And when you think about it with the behavioral psychology lens on, you're already, I'd say better, that's not the right word, but you're already kind of using psychology in a way that 95% of other people aren't, because they're not even thinking about it from a behavioral psychology perspective. So you don't have to go and study behavioral psychology to be an expert or be able to use this. Honestly, just having an awareness of it. And even if you just think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a really basic framework, like it's going to impact the way that you start to construct messages and think about what humans respond to and how you can kind of tap into that. It will make a huge difference.
I'm all about learning and figuring out different ways to do different things, and now I'm motivated to dig deeper into this. So I think I'm going to go to the library this weekend.
Nice. Oh, let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you get on with them. They are like for my business, I help people learn about this kind of stuff and implement creative strategies and think about marketing messaging. That's what my business does. So I'm always thinking like, okay, so what do people who might buy my product or service, what do they really want? Well, one of the things they probably want is job security, because if they don't get results for their clients, they'll lose clients. And so that's kind of like one of those things I can tap into from a psychological perspective, is like this safety kind of motivator. So that would be something I could think about in my marketing messaging of like, keep your clients for longer. Personally, I am way too sensitive and emotional as a person to use marketing in a bad way or in a really unethical way. I know there are a lot of marketers that would, but the kind of unethical stance that some people might take with that kind of line of thinking is like, if you need to put food on the table for your family, this is the course that you need to take because it's going to guarantee that you won't lose clients. I mean, that's really unethical, but you don't have to be unethical with it. And I think this is, I would say, perhaps one of the key call outs with when you do start to learn about marketing psychology and consumer psychology is like, you have a bit of a duty of care, I guess, to use that responsibly and not use it in a way that manipulates people to kind of take an action just because it benefits you as a business.
It's not even in my heart to do that. Like I would have such a hard time writing content like that. Like,
couldn't.
Well, if you don't buy my stuff, then this is what's going to happen. No, like I can never,
No,
I can never bring myself to do that.
I've literally offered someone else, like pitched someone else during a coffee chat because they couldn't afford my pricing, but I didn't want to leave them without some sort of solution. And it was my assistant at the time, which I knew she took on other work and she was based in the Philippines. So her independent price point was more in line. And I was like, you can hire her. I vouch for her. It just can't be through my company. And she did. And eventually she came back, but I couldn't.
You can't leave people worse than you find them.
And that's what you can expect when you talk to me or Sarah outside of this podcast.
Yeah.
Totally. I completely agree. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's thinking about those things of like, okay, how can I, tap into using psychological kind of triggers or motivators to kind of get my audience to take action. But I think it's Marvel, isn't it? Like with great power comes great responsibility. And I would say the same kind of applies here. Like just don't use it carefully. Because ultimately as well, if you do it in a really unethical way, you're going to turn off so many potential buyers anyway. Like people that see those tactics, a lot of people can see those tactics a mile off, and it will just be so damaging for your brand reputation anyway that it's probably not even worth it, even if you have it in your heart to be that unethical.
Yeah.
You'll pay for it in karma anyway.
I've seen the amount of stuff I've seen over the last couple of weeks just on LinkedIn. People will say something kind of unethical to get people in, and people share that, and like the comment section like goes off. Why would you want to have this negativity in your business?
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
Now that everybody else is sharing this and you got 100 comments on it,
good.
Do you think that people are going to actually buy from you now? No.
Yeah, exactly. What's that done to your reputation? Like, and that's one of the really good things about social media. I mean, I know there's plenty of pros and cons, but people can't get away with shadiness anymore. Especially Gen Zers call that stuff out in a heartbeat. Like us millennials can be a bit like, but Gen Zers, they have no hesitation. They are not shy about calling BS when they see it and calling people out when they're like being misleading or unethical. And I'm here for it.
Absolutely. So final question. If you had to start marketing a brand from scratch today, what's the first thing you'd do?
So I would do testimonial analysis. That's the key component of everything that I do I still work with some brands directly and I do their creative strategies for them. So that's the first thing that I do is get as many testimonials as I can, either from that brand directly or from a competitor's brand. Sorry guys, again, I know you don't all want to hear that, but from the competitor, just so I can get a good number of testimonials. And really what I mean by a good number is 200-300 if you can testimonials. And there are so many brands that won't have that for themselves, and that's absolutely fine. And that's why we can go and look at competitors, because we really just want to understand what kind of language do people use, actual customers use when they've experienced a product within this niche. How do they talk about it? And those are the insights. And the amount of times I've literally just taken copy from a testimonial and put it on my ad creative or put it on my website and don't even rework it, because we can be really tempted. And have you seen Mad Men, the TV series Mad Men with Don Draper, who's the copywriter?
I know you're talking about, but I've never watched it.
No, I haven't watched it.
It's so good. It's about marketing as well. It's all featured around this marketing company. Anyway, he's this copywriter and he is amazing. And he works with all these high profile brands and he comes up with these really smart, clever, witty one-liners of copy that were in the times of print when people were reading magazines. It worked, but that's just not the way things happen anymore. Someone scrolling through their feed on social media. They're half picking their nose, half like watching the telly, half listening to the dog bark outside. You've not got a captive audience. If you try and be smart and witty and clever, it's too confusing. Like people don't have the time or the attention span to stop and try and work out what it is you're trying to say. So the more simple you can be, the better. And so very often I will quite literally just lift customers' words out of testimonials and put them on my ads, not even necessarily as a quote, but that will be the angle. Sometimes I will quote testimonials and I'll properly show that it's a quote and put the name next to it. But sometimes I'm just like, that's incredible. Like one of the examples that I always share of this as well is I was working with a sock brand and they had like really fun designs. And I was like, crikey, this is really going to test my abilities as a creative strategist because selling socks is going to be super hard. Like, how am I going to make this really enticing and amazing? And so I'm doing my research, going through the testimonials. And one of the things I came across was someone had said that fun socks very often aren't high quality. So you don't find socks that are fun and that make you smile when you put them on in the morning that will actually be of any kind of quality. And so his testimonial said, it was something along the lines of, I hate it when I buy a new pair of socks and I blow a hole through the toe in like the first week or whatever. And I was like, that is so funny. That is the exact language that customers use. And the way it was worded, like when you blow a hole through the toe, I could literally picture, you know, when your toe goes through and the sock is like really tight and it's so uncomfortable and it drives you nuts all day. And all you want to do is rip your shoe off and pull the sock off because that big toe is a horrible, horrible feeling. And I was like, that's perfect. That's the exact angle. That's exactly the angle that I'm going to use in the marketing. But I would never have been able to come up with that myself. And actually just using the customer's words, like never worry about blowing a hole through the toe of your sock again. Perfect. Great angle. And yeah, I wouldn't have kind of known that or ever come up with anything like that if I hadn't have done the testimonial analysis. So there's a sock related pain point if you need it to try in your marketing.
This is how my brain works is I want to take like the weighted blanket, which I have one, and sleep with it almost every night. Like socks, like how can I do these everyday mundane things and apply it to the messaging that we have just to see how it goes? I'm so curious.
No.
We can have fun with it.
I will test. I'm going to have so much fun.
So I kind of went off on a tangent there. I'm great at that. To bring it back to your question, the first thing I would do is testimonial analysis. And I would look for, and you know, I use AI. I have ChatGPTs that will take really big volumes of testimonials for me and give me a bit more data-driven insights of how many times they found certain things. And so then I can kind of surmise, well, if the customer mentioned this thing 50 times, but this thing only 20 times, let's start with the thing customers mentioned 50 times so that we're kind of making some more data-driven decisions. But if you don't have ChatGPTs or you're not super familiar with it, a really basic starting point would just be go through your testimonials and keep looking at them, or competitor testimonials if you don't have many, and keep looking until you find 5 different pain points, 5 different problems that people had or people were experiencing that your product or service can solve. And then do the same exercise again, go through the testimonials again and look for 5 desired outcomes. So 5 things that they wanted. So we're really trying to build that picture of this is where they are now and this is where they want to be. And once you've got 5 of each of those, you've got 10 marketing messages right there. And then you can start to stitch them together in different ways as well and show different types of transformations. And that will give you so many different kind of variations that you can kind of play around with and test in different formats. But it will be obviously super founded in the insights of your customers and what they've said specifically, or not necessarily your customers, but customers experiencing this product or service in the same niche. And that would give you loads to go on.
Oh, we got some homework to do, right?
Everyone has homework today.
And anyone that listens to this does it, feel free to send it to me and I will help you market.
Well, that's the perfect segue. So how can our listeners connect with you once they start doing their homework and need additional support?
Cool. Great. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at The Creative Strategy Lab or on LinkedIn, Charlotte Sargent. Those tend to be the 2 places where I'm the most active. But if you do find me on LinkedIn and DM me, please don't call me Charlotte. I should probably just change that actually, because everyone, I get it a lot. People DM me and I'm like, oh, it's really strange. I think when you use a nickname in like your day-to-day life and then in your professional life, no one ever knows that that's your nickname until you build a relationship with them, obviously. And so quite frequently I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble.
That's too funny. Well, as always, all of our information is going to be in the show notes. Until next time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.